Hi, I'm Violet. 3 months ago, I was just another passenger on Flight 447 from Denver to Boston, sitting in seat 23C with my 11-year-old son Marcus beside me. That flight changed everything. Mom, something's wrong up there? Marcus whispered, tugging my sleeve. He'd been watching the cockpit door obsessively since takeoff. The kid wanted to be a pilot someday. What do you mean, honey? The flight attendant keeps going in and out like 6 times already. Before I could respond, the PA system crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sarah Bennett, your lead flight attendant. Please remain calm. We're experiencing a medical situation with our flight crew. My stomach dropped. Marcus grabbed my hand. Sarah rushed down the aisle, her face pale. Does anyone have medical training? We need help immediately. A doctor and nurse pushed past us toward the cockpit. Minutes felt like hours. Then Sarah emerged again, her voice shaking over the intercom. Is there anyone on board who has flight experience? Any kind of aviation background? The cabin erupted in panicked whispers. Marcus stood up. Mom, I can help. Marcus, sit down. Mom, I've been doing flight simulator training for 2 years. 600 hours. I know the 737 systems. Sarah appeared at our row, tears streaming down her face. Both pilots are unconscious. They're not responding. The doctor says it looks like severe food poisoning, but they can't wake them up. I can fly it, Marcus said calmly, his voice cutting through the chaos. I've logged 600 hours on the 737 simulator. I know the procedures. Everyone froze. A middle-aged man across the aisle laughed nervously. You can't be serious. He's a child. Sarah looked at Marcus, then at me. Ma'am, I don't know what else to do. We're at 36,000 feet with no one at the controls. I stared at my son. His hands weren't shaking. His eyes were clear. Violet, I can do this. Trust me. Show me your simulator certification, Sarah said quickly. Marcus pulled up his tablet, showing his flight school records. Sarah's eyes widened. 600 hours? On the exact aircraft type? Yes, ma'am. I know every switch, every procedure. I can talk to ATC, I can program the autopilot, and if we need to, I can land it manually. Sarah grabbed her phone. Okay, come with me. We're calling this in right now. I followed them to the cockpit. The scene was horrifying. Both pilots slumped over, the co-pilot's hand still on the yoke. The aircraft was flying level on autopilot, but how long would that last? Marcus slid into the captain's seat like he'd done it 1,000 times. His fingers moved across the controls. This is Flight 447, declaring an emergency. Both pilots incapacitated. I'm an 11-year-old passenger with extensive simulator training taking control of the aircraft. The radio exploded with voices. Marcus calmly answered each question, rattling off our position, fuel status, passenger count. 20 minutes later, guided by controllers and an airline pilot on the ground, he had us descending toward Chicago O'Hare. The landing was rough but safe. When the wheels touched down, the entire cabin erupted in cheers and sobs. 2 days later, I sat in a hospital room with Captain James Rodriguez, the pilot who'd finally regained consciousness. His hands trembled as he held his coffee. Violet, I need to tell you something, he said quietly. This wasn't food poisoning. The doctors found traces of a contaminated cleaning solution in our catering. The airline knew there were complaints about that caterer 2 weeks ago. What do you mean, new? Reports were filed. The safety director, Derek Chen, he received 3 separate complaints about people getting sick from that caterer. He signed off anyway. Kept using them because they were cheap. My blood turned to ice. You're telling me someone knew this could happen? I'm telling you someone let it happen. And your son had to save 147 people because of it. I knocked on Sarah Bennett's apartment door the next morning. She opened it looking exhausted, still in her airline uniform. Violet, come in. I was hoping you'd reach out. Sarah, what do you know about Derek Chen? She closed the door behind me, lowering her voice. More than I should. Sit down. Do you want coffee? I want answers. Sarah poured 2 cups anyway, her hands shaking slightly. Derek Chen has been the safety director for 5 years. He's all about the bottom line. Last year, he pushed through a policy change that let us use cheaper catering services without full safety audits. Didn't anyone object? Captain Rodriguez did. So did 3 other senior pilots. Derek shut them down in a meeting I attended. He said, and I quote, "We're not going to let paranoid pilots bankrupt this airline. The FAA approved these vendors, that's good enough." But there were complaints? Sarah pulled out her phone, scrolling through emails. Here. Flight attendant Melissa Park filed a complaint 11 days before our flight. 6 passengers got sick on flight 229. Same caterer. Derek's response was one line. Isolated incident, no action required. Can I see that? I've already forwarded everything to my personal email. Violet, I have a kid too. What happened up there? Her voice cracked. Marcus saved my life. I'm not letting this go. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Violet Parker? This is Lisa Martinez, aviation attorney. Captain Rodriguez gave me your number. I'd like to discuss your case. We met at her office that afternoon. Lisa was sharp, mid-40s, with a wall of awards behind her desk. I've been investigating Derek Chen for 2 years, she said, spreading documents across her desk. 3 other incidents, all covered up, but nothing with this level of negligence. Violet, what happened on your flight? That's criminal. What can we do? We go after him. Hard. I need you to tell me everything, and I need you to be prepared for him to fight dirty. I'm not afraid of him. You should be. Derek Chen has powerful friends. He's made this airline millions in cost savings. They'll protect him. Then we make sure the evidence is undeniable. Lisa smiled. I like you. Let's get to work. Over the next week, we built our case. Captain Rodriguez connected me with the co-pilot, William Chen, no relation to Derek, who'd also recovered. I remember feeling dizzy during pre-flight. William told me over the phone. I mentioned it to James. We both thought it was just fatigue. By 30 minutes into the flight, we couldn't stay conscious. The doctors said if we'd eaten any more of that contaminated food, we might not have woken up at all. Will you testify against Derek Chen? Absolutely. I've got 3 kids, Violet. Marcus saved my life so I could see them again. Whatever you need. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. I received an email from someone named Robert Torres, a former quality inspector for the airline. Meet me, his message read. I have documents Chen tried to destroy. We met in a parking garage, like something from a movie. Robert was nervous, constantly looking over his shoulder. I was fired 3 months ago for insubordination, he said, handing me a USB drive. This is why. I found evidence that Chen was taking kickbacks from the catering company. $20,000 every quarter to keep them on the approved vendor list, despite multiple safety violations. This is bribery. This is corruption, and attempted murder if you ask me. Those pilots almost died, Violet. Your son, 11 years old, had to land a plane because Derek Chen wanted an extra 80 grand a year. I stared at the USB drive in my hand. Why are you helping me? Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. Go get him. Lisa reviewed the documents that night. At 2 a.m., she called me. Violet, this is it. This is everything we need. Bank records, emails, safety reports he buried. We're filing criminal charges tomorrow. What will Derek do when he finds out? He'll panic. And when people like him panic, they make mistakes. Be ready. Derek Chen's lawyer demanded a meeting before any charges were filed. Lisa advised against it, but I insisted. I want to look him in the eye, I told her. We met in a conference room at the airline's headquarters. Derek walked in wearing an expensive suit, his smile confident. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with perfectly styled hair and cold eyes. Mrs. Parker, I'm so glad we could meet, he said smoothly, extending his hand. I didn't take it. Save it. His smile faltered. His lawyer, a woman named Janet Price, cleared her throat. Let's keep this professional. Mr. Chen wanted to personally express... I know exactly what happened, I interrupted, sliding the USB drive across the table. $20,000 per quarter, for 18 months, from Sunset Catering Services. Derek's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. You accepted bribes to keep a contaminated catering service on the approved vendor list. 3 separate complaints documented safety violations. You buried them all. And on March 15th, your negligence almost killed 147 people. That's ridiculous, Derek said, but his voice wavered. Those payments were consulting fees, perfectly legal. For what consulting? The bank records show payments deposited the same day you approved their vendor renewals despite active safety complaints. Janet opened her mouth, but Derek cut her off. Look, Mrs. Parker, I understand you're upset. What happened on that flight was traumatic. Your son is a hero. Don't you dare talk about my son. I'm trying to be reasonable here. Maybe there were some procedural oversights, but this was ultimately a contamination issue at the vendor level, which you were paid to ignore. Derek leaned forward, his mask slipping. You think you understand how this industry works? Those safety complaints? They're filed constantly. Hundreds of them. My job is to assess real threats versus noise. I made a judgment call. A judgment call? My voice rose. Both pilots were unconscious at 36,000 feet. My 11-year-old son had to land that plane because you wanted extra money. Your son was lucky. Lucky? I stood up, slamming my hands on the table. My son spent 2 years training in simulators because he loves aviation. He saved 147 lives because he was prepared. That's not luck, that's a miracle. And he needed a miracle because you were too busy pocketing bribes to do your job. Derek stood too, his face flushing. You have no idea what you're dealing with. This airline has lawyers who will bury you. Your little case will disappear. I have bank records, emails, testimony from 3 pilots, 2 flight attendants, and your own former quality inspector. I have documented proof you destroyed safety reports. Robert Torres was a disgruntled employee spreading lies. Is that why the bank records match his documentation perfectly? Is that why Captain Rodriguez's testimony corroborates every detail? You're done, Derek. He stared at me, then laughed bitterly. Fine. You want an apology? I'm sorry your son was scared. I'm sorry you had a bad flight. What do you want, money? Name a number. I want you in prison. The conference room went silent. Janet tried to speak, but Derek waved her off. You're making a mistake, he said quietly, his voice turning threatening. I have friends in this industry, powerful friends. You filed charges against me, and I will make sure you regret it. Your son wants to be a pilot? That dream dies if you cross me. I'll make sure he never gets a commercial license. Are you threatening my child? Lisa cut in, her recorder visible on the table. Derek's eyes widened as he realized what he'd done. That's not... You just threatened to harm a minor's future career because his mother is exposing your crimes, Lisa continued calmly. Janet, you heard that, right? Your client just made a direct threat against an 11-year-old witness. Janet gathered her papers quickly. This meeting is over. Derek, don't say another word. But Derek wasn't finished. He lunged toward me, pointing his finger inches from my face. You self-righteous! Security appeared instantly, pulling him back. Derek struggled, still shouting. You think you're so noble? Your son should have minded his own business. None of this would have happened if you hadn't accepted bribes to endanger passengers, I said coldly. You're right. None of this would have happened if you'd done your job. They escorted Derek out, still raging. Lisa packed up her recorder with a satisfied smile. Well, she said, that went better than expected. We've got him on tape threatening a minor witness. That's another charge. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. File everything. Today. The trial moved quickly. I sat with Marcus as Lisa presented our evidence. The bank records, the buried safety reports, Derek's recorded threats. Captain Rodriguez testified, his voice steady as he described waking up in the hospital. I'm a pilot with 23 years of experience, James said from the witness stand. I've handled emergencies before, but lying unconscious while an 11-year-old landed my aircraft? That's a nightmare I'll carry forever. And it happened because Derek Chen chose money over lives. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. 12 years federal prison. 2 weeks later, Derek's lawyer called. He wants to apologize. Properly this time. Lisa looked at me. Your call. Let's hear it. We met at the courthouse. Derek looked broken, his expensive confidence gone. Violet, thank you for coming, he began softly. I've had time to think about what I did. The pilots who almost died, your son having to. I'm deeply sorry. I made terrible choices. You're sorry you got caught. No, I mean it. I let greed destroy my judgment. If you'd consider dropping the civil suit, I'll accept full responsibility. I'll plead, you already pled guilty. The evidence was overwhelming. I know, but my family, my daughter's 16, my wife is losing everything. Can't we find some way past this? Some understanding? Derek, my son was 11. He sat in that cockpit terrified, trying to save people he didn't know. He still has nightmares. You had 3 chances to stop this. You chose money every time. I made mistakes, but can't people change? Can't we? You threatened my child when I exposed you. You don't want forgiveness. You want to escape consequences. That's not fair. Captain Rodriguez almost died. Co-pilot Chen almost died. 147 people almost died. Because you took bribes. We're done here. I stood. Derek grabbed my arm desperately. Please, Violet. There has to be a way. Security moved forward, but I pulled free myself. Derek, the only thing that would have fixed this is if you'd never taken those bribes. Goodbye. I walked out. Lisa caught up in the hallway. How do you feel? Like it's finally over. It is. He's going away for 12 years. The airline's implementing new safety protocols. You did this. Outside, Marcus waited on a bench. How'd it go? He wanted forgiveness. I said no. Good. Marcus stood, looking up at the sky. Mom, Captain Rodriguez called. He wants to take me up in a real plane next week. Just a small one, but actual flight time. You're not scared? After everything? I'm more determined. What happened taught me that pilots have to be ready for anything. They have to protect people. That's what I want to do. We walked to the car together. Another plane crossed overhead, and Marcus tracked it with that familiar intensity. The airline offered you flight training when you're older, I reminded him. I know. I've already started studying for the written exam, just getting a head start. That's my boy. That evening, Sarah called. Violet, my consulting firm is officially launching. I wanted you to know. We're creating new protocols based on what happened. No more Derek's, no more buried complaints. That's wonderful, Sarah. And Violet, thank you for not letting him get away with it. A lot of people would have taken money and stayed quiet. I couldn't live with that. I know. That's why you're remarkable. I hung up and found Marcus on the porch, watching planes cross the darkening sky. You know what I learned? He said quietly. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right anyway. Where'd you learn that? From you, Mom. You took on someone powerful because it was right, even when he threatened us. I pulled him close. We did it together. You saved those lives. I made sure the person responsible paid for endangering them. Think Derek really understands what he did? I think people like him only see themselves. But people like you see everyone. That's what makes you special. Marcus watched another plane climb into the night. Ready for tomorrow's simulator session? Always. The sky had taught us something that day at 36,000 feet. When everything falls apart, some people rise and some people fail. Derek chose greed and failed everyone. Marcus chose courage and became a hero. And me? I chose justice. And I'd make that choice again every single time. Have you ever stood up against corruption even when threatened? How did you find the strength? Share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more true stories of courage and justice.